ladies and gentlemen, it's time! Brought to you by Ringside, the best in boxing. It's the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Introducing first, fighting out of the Zapata Brand Studio in Berwick, Pennsylvania. He is an expert in boxing and bagels, George Zapata!
Well, fight fans, it is fight week, Cinco de Mayo weekend, and who better to have than Kevin Iole from KevinIole.com join the Zapata Brand Boxing Podcast. Kevin, how are you?
I'm doing really good. Looking forward to Saturday's fight. Going to be a fun one.
Oh, yeah. First of all, Kevin, how are you feeling?
Well, my surgery was good. My left eye I had done last week, Dennis, and I had a cataract removed. I could see Wednesday morning perfectly. My right eye, though, still working to see out of my right eye.
Well, either way, you look good without the glasses, and that's a better look for you.
We got all the young girls we know are now swooning.
Yeah, no, I tell you, something else. Well, Kev, you're out there in Vegas on this weekend here, and what's the atmosphere like?
Slow right now, but I think it's going to pick up. I mean, for Mexican Cinco de Mayo, I was going to say Mexican Independence Day. That's September. Cinco de Mayo always is a big show here in Vegas, and it's going to really be enthusiastic. The hotels get into it, and they have a lot of acts that kind of cater to that crowd. It's going to be a fun week, and I think that today is going to be the day where it starts to build. You're going to start seeing people come in. Canelo is a big draw, and I think you're going to see this place be rocking. Tickets are still available, but the PBC has a way of getting people in the building, even if the tickets aren't necessarily moving all that fast. The thing that I want to just say, on the record, I mean, this is outrageous with a $90 pay-per-view. I mean, what?
How is it 90?
$89.95. I mean, wow. I don't get that, and I think that is really basically what you're doing is you're encouraging. Fans want to steal the signal anyways, right? Mm-hmm. And which is unfortunate, but they do. And now on top of that, you're making it by charging this kind of money for it. You're just making them want to do that even more. I mean, I just don't understand the pricing on this.
You think that was strategically placed because of them with the Amazon deal? Because they're funding that, are they not?
Well, I think it's I think what it is they're paying Canelo a lot of money, so they're trying to get back what their expenses. But I think put on a good show. Like to me, I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I think this is really important to know. Boxing at its best is still a spectacular sport, and people who go to boxing either live or they watch it at home with a bunch of their friends on TV, it's amazing how much people love it, right? But they don't always do it right. And I think what you have to do is consistently build good undercards, consistently make the best main event matches, and then price things fairly. And if you do that, I think, you're going to get the sport is going to grow and it's going to bubble back up again. And I mean, you look at what the UFC does, right? And that certainly, I think, should be evidence to boxing that people love fighting and people are interested in fighting. And if you make the right fights and you have integrity in terms of, we're not going to, Terrence Crawford wins the undisputed welterweight title. And what is the press release a week later? Jaron Ennis is now the IBF welterweight champion. I mean, how does that make sense? And we got to get away that, this is an undisputed title fight this week. We got to get away from the titles. Somebody wins the titles in the ring, they're automatically taken away from them outside the ring.
Right. Well, let's turn our attention to the fight this weekend. Jaime Mungia, let's go start with him. A good fighter. I think he's a good fighter. I think his opportunity is knocking now after the fight with Ryder. I knew right after the fight how they pushed him and they were starting to really push him. I knew he would get the fight. I thought maybe Charlo, but then his antics went sideways. I just said, okay, this is the guy they're going to put in there and leave Berlanga later on. I definitely did not think it was going to be Benavidez. What do you know about Mungia as him coming up through the ranks?
Mungia is a really good fighter. I mean, he's a guy that, did not have that high profile that, some of the other Mexican fighters had, right? I mean, he was a guy that kind of surprised people as he was on his way up. But each step up the ladder, he improved as he got bigger. So, he was supposed to fight Gennady Golovkin in Nevada when Alvarez had the problem with the drug test. So he was out. It was the rematch. So they wanted to put Mungia in. And Bob Bennett, who was the executive director of the Nevada Athletic Commission at the time, would not approve him. But what did he do? He went out there and he ended up fighting Saddam Ali, who was certainly no Gennady Golovkin, and he destroyed Saddam Ali, and he moved up a level. And I think he showed, hey, I am a competent professional. And I just wrote a piece about him, Dennis. And if you go to keviniole.com and you read that piece, the big difference is Canelo has fought Hall of Fame guys that are already in the Hall of Fame. Miguel Cotto, Shane Mosley, and of course the great Floyd Mayweather, 3 fighters already in the Boxing Hall of Fame. Where you look at Mungia and who were his best opponents, Gabe Rosado, Derevchenko, John Ryder, probably Liam Smith and Saddam Ali, right? Certainly different levels of opponent. That is the big thing going against Mungia. But I think, and I'm predicting a Canelo win, but what I want to get across to people who are, this is not just a show up and win fight for Canelo. He can't afford to make mistakes, and he's going to be on top of his game because Mungia is a very good professional.
Now, the one thing I will say, I think do you think in the beginning, I'll say in the beginning of the fights, could be a time where, because Mungia will throw, he's a volume puncher, he will throw, he could hurt Canelo.
Yes.
The one thing I don't like that Mungia does, he can be countered, he can be hit just the same way because the way he throws. Do you think there's any shot at all out of the gate? Mungia says, I'm going to go for broke. I got nothing to lose.
I think he is going to fight that way. I wrote in my story, I said, I think that you're going to see at some point early in the fight, everybody in the arena standing up. These two guys are trading and throwing a lot of shots. And you're going to see this place going nuts, right? Because I think that the crowd that's going to be there, the type of motivation that's going to be there for the fighters because of that crowd. And I think Mungia knows his best chance to win is to, try to land something. Now, he's fighting a guy in Canelo Alvarez who not only is a very accomplished fighter and who's good defensively, he's got a great chin. So, Mungia isn't going to be able to one-punch Canelo Alvarez, right? If he is going to beat Canelo, I think he's got to land consistently over the rounds and kind of break Canelo down as the fight goes on. And that is not easy to do, but because he's going to get fire coming back at him. And as I wrote in my piece, and one of the things I said in there was, Freddie Rhodes would have preferred to not taken this fight now and had it in September and had one more fight now where they could have worked in the gym on his defense. And I said he's never going to be Willie Pep defensively, right? But if they would have had a little more time for him to work on some things so he wasn't so available to be hit like you referenced, which I think was 100% accurate, then it would have been, it could be a little bit different story. But when Canelo offers you a fight for the undisputed title, you don't say, well, I want to take it 3 months from now. You take the fight when it's offered, and that's what he had to do.
Yeah, and I just worry that I think you're right. It's going to be a good fight. 2 Mexicans going at it, and they're going to have the testosterone together and bang right in the center of the ring at some point. I just hope it isn't a blowaway, just because Mungia getting hit as much as he does. And you said it perfectly. Canelo does not go down. He doesn't get rocked at all. He got rocked one time by Jose Cotto. That's it. That's the only time we've ever seen Cotto really where he's grabbing. The only thing is Mungia too also does throw some weird shots, weird right hands from different angles. So maybe, just maybe, he can get one of those in.
Yeah, if you look at the guys that Canelo's fought, since really I think the second Triple G fight, he hasn't had anybody go in there and really throw at him and really engage with him and get him going, right? They fought cautiously. They respected him. Mungia, I think, is going to go for it. I think, he's the kind of fighter he says, hey, you know what? I'm going to win if I put on a good show. If he gets an L, but he puts on a good show, it's a win for Mungia, right? Yeah. So he has a number of things going for him where Canelo has to get the W or it's a huge, loss for him. So I think, Mungia is going to say, screw it. And he's going to come and he's going to give it what he has. And I think when you put the pressure on a veteran guy, hey, look, I still think Canelo is one of the best fighters in the world, but he's 33. He's not 23. And, you know, you're not as good at 23 as you were at 28. Let's be honest, right? And I think athletically, right? You might be technically as good or better, but you're not as athletically as good or better. And I think that's where Mungia's opportunity is. Pressure, land something, and try to keep that pressure on, and don't give Canelo a chance to breathe. But you're walking a tightrope. You know, it's like you're walking, you know, down Manhattan from one building to the next across the street with just a tightrope and no net below you.
I mean, yeah, so something is bound to happen at that point. Let me ask you this. You brought up two interesting points. Number one, everyone is saying how Canelo's been through so many fights. He's been through wars. Mungia on the other side at 40, he has 40 some fights. He's been through some wars just the same. I mean, he's been through some rocky wars. So do you think that we're overlooking the fact that he's been in a ton of wars too?
Well, I think, you know, Derevchenko fight, certainly, you know, I mean, that was a life and death fight. So
yeah,
Derevchenko was at the end of the line when he fought Mungia. So if you just like look at that fight and you say, well, how the hell can Mungia possibly beat Canelo when Mungia was struggling so much with Derevchenko? But I think, you know, that, hey, look, we're all human. He looks at Derevchenko. He sees, you know, he hadn't been looking good in his most recent fights. Derevchenko's kind of at the end. He thinks he's going to win the fight, and he didn't train with the same vigor that he trained, you know, I guarantee you that he trained for Canelo with. So, you know, I don't want to sit here and have people come out, listen to this podcast and then come out and say, Kevin Iole is saying Mungia is the better fighter and that Mungia is going to win the fight. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that I think Mungia is a very good professional fighter and that he is going to come to fight. And he will make it a fight. And when you make it a fight, you never know what happens, right? Guys get hit, they get hurt, you know, and if he follows up on it at the right time, you know, who knows what happens. I think, you know, the odds are very heavily stacked in Canelo's favor, as they should be. All I'm saying is it's not going to be Buster Douglas 42-1 against Mike Tyson, right? That's not, you know, don't be that shocked if Mungia wins.
Well, either way, it's a win for Mungia. Not only financially, his stock rises as to what his options are. You know, so it's a good fight for him. My second point is you're there in Vegas. I look at Mungia as a guy who the Mexican fans kind of gravitate to. Do you feel that?
Yes, of course. I mean, and I think, you know, hey, look, Canelo is the crowd favorite. And so, you know, you're going to have most of the crowd is going to root for him. But hey, if Mungia does well, the crowd is going to turn, right? They always do, right? Yeah. No matter what. And if an underdog starts doing well, they're into it and they want to see that happen. And I think you're going to see, you know, Mungia's effort is going to be, you know, appreciated by the fans in attendance. And that's why I think I said, I think there's going to be a point in the early part of this fight, in the first 4 rounds, say, where the fans are upstanding and as these two are trading. And I think Mungia, you know, his chin is going to be a big factor in how long can he take it, because he has to, you know, he has to break Canelo down. Canelo can one punch him, right? There's no doubt. Canelo has that power that if he lands the clean shot, you know, that clean right hand, counter right hand, he can put Mungia to sleep with just 1 or 2 shots. Mungia is going to need to do it over and over, right? Over rounds because of Canelo's chin. So that's the issue there. Mungia is going to need time to get his work done, and so we'll see how that ends up playing out.
But I look at it because I saw him at the Grand Arrivals. I was watching it, and he's a. I know he's an underdog, but I think the fans are liking the underdog. They really. I mean, and he's not going to compete on a Canelo fan base at all. But I actually like them. I actually.
Hey, look, the Mexican fans are loyal, and they like Jaime Mungia. And he's fighting for Oscar, and Oscar is popular among the Mexican fans. You know, certainly not as popular as Canelo. But that'll help Mungia, right? So I think Mungia is going to have his share of fans, and if he does well, they're gonna be there for him.
So let's turn to the undisputed champion Canelo Alvarez. Now, I think his demise was a big understatement there. I've gone on record as saying, oh, this is the last one. There'd be 2 fights before, so I've been way off. What do you think of Canelo right now? My question would be this, and I talked to Jim Lampley about this yesterday. How does a guy, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler said it so elegantly, not like me, He said, "How do you get up in the morning? It's hard to get up at 4 a.m. in silk pajamas." But Canelo Alvarez has consistently done this, and he has. They said he allegedly is worth $250 million, if not more. How does he get up for fights like this? And I'm not saying Jaime Mungia is it, but get up for fights like this and still perform on that level, even when you think, oh, he's got to be on the end of his career, and he does every single time.
He has a company called No Boxing, No Life. And he loves boxing so much that boxing is his life. And he's smart enough to recognize that he got where he is by doing the work in the gym. And everybody has to do that. And I think a lot of times they realize it, and then they get rich and they get comfortable, and everybody's kissing their butt and everybody's doing things for them. And, they want to do something for the champ, and they want the champ to recognize them and be friends with them. And so they do things, and you don't push as hard, right? Canelo's team pushes him. Eddie Reynoso and his father, Chapo Reynoso, they push Canelo. They don't kiss his butt. His sparring partners work him. And Canelo, I think who he is as a person is just that kind of guy. Work for what you make. And he's a self-made man. He's a self-made boxer. And I think, you're seeing why he's great, because he goes out there and he's outworking everybody else. He comes into the fight with a huge advantage because he's worked harder than nearly everybody he's fought.
But not only that, the way he handles himself outside the ring has helped his career tremendously. He's one of these guys who you can put on sponsorships, and you're not going to get any issues outside of the ring with him. I think there was one way back in the day, but he's comfortable that way. Canelo, when I look at him, I see him as a superstar that could really pick and choose who he wants. But one of the ones right. The only fact is that he has the undisputed championship kind of wrapped up there. I think he would either I would want to see him kind of move forward with someone who deserves a shot like David Benavidez. But I don't know. Is this a point we put the David Benavidez fight to rest just because he's moving up, wants to fight the winner of the ball, or no?
No, I think the Benavidez fight will still be there. Canelo, like I remember he fought Amir Khan in 2015. And I just remember, quizzing Oscar, who was promoting Canelo at the time, and then quizzing Canelo, why not Triple G? Why not Triple G? And they came back with Julio Cesar Chavez next, right? Canelo has a game plan, and he does things on his time plan, what he thinks is best for his career. And it's hard to fault him. It's been successful. He's been successful with what he's done. I do believe he wants to fight Benavidez. I don't have any proof of this, but just from hearing people talk and being around, my suspicion is, and this is just a suspicion, that he doesn't like Benavidez's father, and that there's some issue between Jose Benavidez Sr. and Canelo. And that Canelo doesn't want to give David a payday because he doesn't want to reward the father. That is kind of what my theory is going on here. But Canelo also recognizes the fact that David Benavidez is a world-class pound-for-pound type fighter. And if he beats Vodzik in June in that fight that they have, boy, oh boy, it's going to be very, very difficult to deny, that you want to fight him. So what do I think happens? If we assume that both Benavidez and Canelo wins, then I think Canelo's decision is going to be complicated by one fight, which is Beterbiev and Bivol. Canelo would like to get that Bivol fight back. And I don't believe Canelo, and he said this week, he's not going to move up to light heavyweight for anybody but Bivol. So if he can get the rematch with Bivol, then he'll go to light heavyweight for that one fight and that one fight only. It's not like he's looking to chase down Arthur Beterbiev.
No.
But if especially if Beterbiev beats Bivol. But I think if Benavidez wins his fight and Bivol loses his fight, then I think that the odds of the Benavidez fight in September increase greatly. I think you just have to there's a lot of moving parts here. You have to see what happens.
Well, that would, now you brought that point up. If Bivol wins, boy, it'd be hard for Canelo not to go out for the undisputed championship at light heavyweight. That would really, solidify probably with the Mexican fans, that would probably solidify him as probably the greatest Mexican fighter. if he won the light heavyweight undisputed title after this one.
Yeah, I mean, he's he's getting up there, right? I mean, who do I think still, if we had to pick, if you ask me right now, without who's the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, you got to say Chavez, right? Because
was he though?
I just look at the longevity he had and the people he beat and everything. I mean, I think there's
some controversial fights in there though, Kev. I mean, he did not beat Pernell Whitaker. He did not beat Frankie Randall. I mean,
he didn't win over Pernell Whitaker. He got a draw.
Right. No, what I'm saying. Believe me, Pernell Whitaker won that fight. Kevin, come on.
I agree.
All right, so he loses to
Frankie 120 fights, right? So I mean,
who do you fight though? Who do you fight? I mean, all right. So when he was 140, he was fighting Roger Mayweather. He was fighting everyone there. I get that, but I mean, as he was going, the longevity thing, he was. But I remember when I first saw him, he was like 65-0, and I was back in '92. I was like, who the hell is he fighting?
That's a little bit like Mungia right now.
Exactly. No, I agree, but I'm not calling Mungia the greatest Mexican fighter. I really think Canelo has to be looked at as the guy. I think there's some sort of disconnect for some reason with the Mexican fans because I think his wealth, I think, bothers them for some reason. I don't know why. It's almost like the 50 Cent thing, where 50 Cent he came out of the hood. He came out. He's now probably a billionaire at this point.
Right.
And he lost that kind of street cred. They're like, well, but the reality is he made it out. He made it out. That should be your ultimate goal, is to make it out. That's the only thing I see with it. But not saying that Chavez didn't, but Chavez was a real kind of down to earth kind of guy. You didn't see him popping all over energy drinks and gas stations and whatever. Very popular. Canelo's like worldwide kind of things. That's the only thing I see.
Well, I mean, I think, hey, like Mexico has produced a lot of great fighters, right? Ruben Alvarez, certainly has to be up there. Salvador Sanchez, would have to be in consideration. There's a lot of guys, depending on, Jose Napoles was born in Cuba, but, lived and fought out of Mexico. So it depends on, but if we're talking just Mexican borns, we'll eliminate him. But there have been a lot of great Mexican fighters, right? But I think Chavez is the default choice just for the number of wins that he had and the people that he beat. He beat a lot of really, really good people, right? And look at Meldrick Taylor and, and whatnot. And
but see, even that fight, Kevin, because that was right in my wheelhouse. Right in my wheelhouse. Meldrick Taylor was only a few years behind, in front of me. So I saw him going through the Olympics and stuff. Man, it just those little nicks. He did win, correct. I will say that, but boy, oh boy, you can't give him 2 seconds to 2 seconds. Richard Steele couldn't give him 2 seconds. That changes a lot. That does change a lot. Now, Meldrick Taylor was never the same after that, but that changes a lot of his trajectory. Chavez,
what does that say to you? Like, think about that. Meldrick Taylor, if he would have won that fight, if Richard Steele had given him the final 10 seconds and went to a scorecard and Taylor won the fight, what does it say about Meldrick Taylor could not perform at any remotely close to that level ever again? Right. No. And I think Chavez, and power is scored in boxing, right? Power is scored in professional boxing. And he stopped him. I mean, it doesn't matter if you hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 9th inning, or you win 13-0, you won the game. They don't say, well, you almost lost because you hit a 3-run homer in the bottom of the 9th. You won, and Chavez won, and that,
we're gonna agree to disagree on this one, because everyone loves Chavez. I'm a Canelo guy. I'm just a Canelo guy from.
Well, I'm going to pull up Chavez's record while I'm here, just so we can go over. Let's go over some of Chavez's wins, so that we can talk about the quality of his victories. Because I think when you look at, you said that he didn't have, and he fought these people. So I'll just go to 96, right? Because I think anything after 96 or
right around there.
But okay. I'm just going to go back here. So he's got wins over Meldrick Taylor is a good win. Frankie Randall is a good win. Greg Haugen was a good win. Hector Camacho was a good win.
Was that first Frankie Randall fight? Was that the first one?
The second Frankie Randall fight. He lost the first one.
First one he lost. Yep.
Let's see. where am I at here? Roger Mayweather, Jose Luis Ramirez, Bazooka Limon, Edwin Rosario, Juan Laporte, Rocky Lockridge. Here's another Roger Mayweather fight. I mean, look at these people that he was beating. I mean, very, very good fighters, and he was beating them. I mean, the Black Mamba. I mean, he beats Roger, destroys Roger.
Yeah. Okay. All right. You're convincing me. Your argument's getting better. Your argument's getting better. But I think it's a generational thing with me, because I grew up with him, Chavez, when he was kind of, getting Greek gift decision. That gift decision really bothered me against Pernell Whitaker. Pernell Whitaker was my guy. Then Medrick Taylor was my guy too. I mean, I love those two fighters, but that kind of soured me a little bit.
I know Dennis will know who the right one is.
You know what? I'm going to get Dennis's opinion, but he's a few years younger than me, believe it or not. I mean, I know I look a lot better and younger than him, but he's younger than me. So either way, let me get your final prediction here for the fight this weekend. What are you looking for, and what can you expect?
My prediction is going to be a Canelo Alvarez late stoppage. I think Alvarez it's going to be a good fight. I think it's going to be halfway through, anybody's fight, maybe an even fight halfway through. I think Canelo's power will start to take a toll. I think he's going to break Mungia down with some of his body work. And I think as the fight hits the championship rounds, you'll see Canelo stop him. So I expect Canelo by a late stoppage. I like the over in the fight. I think the over is 10.5. But I think Canelo will get him in the last, part of the fight, the last 5 minutes of the fight. I think Canelo will stop him. So I say Canelo by stoppage, and what is a surprisingly fun fight.
Okay, well, I think it's going to be a surprisingly fun fight too. I think going in, I'm going opposite. I mean, we have seen some crazy stuff happening in boxing, all the stuff going around in the world. I am so far off on my prediction, so I'm going to go Mungia. I'm going to go opposite. I'm going to do the George Costanza opposite of everything. Everything I'm picking now, I'm going opposite. Go opposite of me. I think Jaime Mungia pulls it off. I think he pulls it off between 10 and 12.
I was talking all that time, I'm thinking George is not buying what I'm saying here, and now you're picking him.
I'm going to pick him, but because I just have to go opposite. There's a guy who I go back and forth with in the comments, David, and he goes back and he brings up some great points all the time. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go with it because my picks have been so bad. I'm just like, why not do the George Costanza? Throw it out there, see if it happens, because I've been so far off lately. So that's my pick.
If you're bad, it's not always a reflection on you if you handicap the fight right. Because these guys are the best fighters in the world, and they're close, right? It's kind of like you get to the NCAA tournament, and you get rid of the 16 seeds and the 15 seeds, and the team, the Elite Eight, basically, any of those teams are good enough to win the national title. And I think in boxing, we don't think of it that way, but most of the time, the guys that Canelo's fighting are good enough to win, right? They're not as good as he is, but they are good enough on a given night to win the fight. I think Mungia's in that boat. I mean, the implied odds, at William Hill Sportsbook here in Las Vegas, Canelo is -600. That means the implied odds, Canelo should win 85.7% of the time. Yeah. So 86% of the time, Canelo is going to win. But that means if they fought 100 times, Mungia would win 14 of them. And, he doesn't have to. He just has to win on that one time, right? He doesn't have to beat him 14 times. He has to beat him that one time to get the benefit of it. So hey, you might have something there.
Now I know Canelo gave my brother Dennis a shout out at your steak dinner, but if Jaime's listening, Jaime, please, just one time for me, please. I just want to be right one time against Dennis, one time. But either way, Kevin, as always, we're going to wrap this up. KevinIole.com. Where can I get hold of you?
You can get me on Instagram and Facebook at Kevin Iole, on Twitter at Kevin I, and of course, the best way, KevinIole.com, and send me a message.
Well, that's always good to have you on Big Fight Weeks. Kevin Iole from KevinIole.com. Thanks, Kev, for joining me.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate you.
Thanks for watching the Zapata Brand Podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast and listen where all podcasts are available.